on this wet and wild episode of MythBusters.
Ooh, I definitely feel like I'm not really in control. Woo! Here's a little math for you. Flat tires plus police chasing your butt
Oh, he is losing it.
equals C in jail, buddy.
According to the murmurings of the criminal underworld, you can defeat a spike strip. So we're gonna try a couple of DIY methods for toughening up our tires,
That's not a sexy ride at all.
as well as an outrageous driving maneuver right out of a hyped-up Hollywood heist.
And Brian and John meet up with a couple of old pals from the search to power up a super fountain.
We're testing the myth that an old man in an inner tube, yeah, I think he had a little bit too much to drink this time, accidentally floats his way over a fountain and gets shot up into the air, being suspended by the water. Come on! Come on! Come on! Come on! Woo!
The first myth off the blocks involves an enticing yet highly dangerous cocktail: alcohol and water. The story goes that a tipsy senior citizen decided to finish off an evening of drinking with a dip in his hotel's dormant fountain. Floating in an inflatable ring, he bobbed across the water's surface in a gentle stupor. Until, that is, the fountain sprang to life, suspending the startled senior high in the air for several seconds. But when the MythBusters investigate this tale of drunken misadventure, will it hold water, or is it merely hydrodynamic hyperbole?
Well, this sounds like a senior's party gone wrong.
Yeah, I'd say gone wrong and then some.
It's safe to assume those great fountains in Vegas and Dubai aren't gonna let us do this.
You mean because it's not good for their public image?
Yeah, exactly. But that means we get to build a super fountain, and I've never done that before.
Oh, wait, here's a surprise. I haven't either.
Let's do it.
But before the guys go full Vegas and engineer a super fountain, they need to learn how to optimize its design to lift and hold a floating object.
Water is one of the most prevalent molecules on the planet, but it's also one of the most unique. With just one oxygen and two hydrogens separated by 104.5 degrees, it becomes just about magical. You can use it to cut through steel, lift a 500,000-ton ship, and it's most dense as a liquid and not as a solid. It's those crazy properties and many more that we're gonna have to investigate to figure out just how water could lift a human being.
Luckily for us, we have a custom-built MythBusters fountain right here, including a powerful pump, a flow regulator valve, a reservoir with enough water for continuous flow, and a series of interchangeable nozzles that will help us find the optimum stream to give this myth the best chance.
Oh! That's more reasonable. This myth is about a person being levitated by a stream of water, but a person is oddly shaped. We're gonna start with something with a little simpler physical property: a sphere. All right.
Do it!
The first nozzle up for testing is medium-sized and produces what's known as a clear stream jet. So is it capable of suspending a foam ball in midair?
Oh! It looks so promising.
You know what? I started to see something, though. It's gonna fall out to one side, but watch as it comes out, it starts to spin and slow down its fall. Ah, you see it hang up?
It rolls off the stream.
I think we need a little more stream.
Let's do it.
Woo! Oh! Oh! That ball's levitating.
Whoa!
That's great, man.
Holy moly! It's kind of like black magic.
But the high-speed footage reveals this is no witchery. It's pure physics.
The ball's not in the jet, it's off to the side, and it's constantly spinning.
Right? That's that hydrodynamic effect. Obviously, gravity's pulling the ball down, but the water's pushing it up and out. But the important force, that water being flung around, pushing it back into the stream and stabilizing it.
It's a spectacular trick the guys repeat with a number of different balls and nozzles. But the hydrodynamic effect most likely doesn't explain this myth.
That's cool, but check this out. Buster in his inner tube, no magic carpet ride.
So it's back to testing, and time for a switch of balls.
We have this one. Yeah, it's heavier than this one. It's a bit smaller, too. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Here we go. Okay. Oh! Oh, so close. Oh! I shouldn't have yelled.
I was so excited for like a tenth a second.
The jet is just too turbulent, and because some sections of the water column are moving faster than others, the internal differences in pressure this creates throws the ball out every time.
I think a smaller nozzle is going to pull a little trick here that we need.
Brian's backing a small clear stream nozzle to produce a less turbulent jet, in which the water is moving at a more uniform speed, with less destabilizing variance in internal pressure.
Give her a shot.
Oh, come on. Ooh, look at that.
That's beautiful, and I think that means these nozzles are important.
In fact, several nozzle types, which produce a more stable, less turbulent jet, also steadily suspend weightier rubber balls.
There you have it. This is a different physics principle than we saw last time.
Yeah?
And a comparison with the hydrodynamic effect reveals why these differing physics could be crucial to solving this myth.
That's the hydrodynamic effect, and that's the Bernoulli effect.
It almost doesn't look like the ball's moving. It's just water moving up and around it.
The Bernoulli effect's, it's like cupped hands. That top of that stream holds the ball in the center, and if it's pushed off to the side, there's actually extra force from that movement and less force on the other side because the ball's moved over, making that ball want to shift back into the center, holding it steady. And that Bernoulli force is exactly what we want to take advantage of.
But before Mini Buster gets a ride in the jet flow, let's swerve over to a myth about fleeing the 5-0. They're every getaway driver's nightmare, road spikes. Yet some felons claim to have beaten a blowout and the best efforts of the boys in blue. Their secret? DIY toughened tires. But when the MythBusters investigate, will these criminal claims hold firm or hit the skids?
This is John Lung reporting live for MythBusters News at what appears to be a horrific accident involving an overturned tanker trailer just a quarter-mile outside of Hazmat City. Actually, this is John Lung reporting for MythBusters at Del Val Disaster Training Facility, where firefighters train every day for real-life disasters just like this. And it's the perfect place for us to have our own little disaster involving some spike strips.
Best stuff. This is a real spike strip.
Wow, that's nothing but business, huh?
Look at this, the spikes come right out and they're hollow to bleed the air out. These little feet actually get caught so it can tilt either way as that wheel comes in, lining up those spikes perfectly. It's genius.
And it's these design nuances which make the spike strip such an effective car-killing tool. When the MythBusters first tested the tire-busting prowess of road spikes, Adam dropped them from a fleeing spy car.
There we go.
But they failed to stop Jamie's hot pursuit.
Okay, we got you. Bang, 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 bang.
And both Adam and the myth were busted.
Here it goes.
But when the myth was retested, this time Jamie dropped hollow spikes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I feel them in my tires.
And this single enhancement made all the difference. The hollow spikes allowed air to escape from the tires of Adam's chasing car, immobilizing it within 15 seconds. In fact, they're so effective that run over them slow or run over them fast, and you're on a highway to nowhere but Flatsville.
You hear that, Brian?
Yeah.
That's the overwhelming sound of our car getting its butt kicked by that spike strip.
Those spikes, they're hollow so that they're like a soda straw. That way, a small sip of air can come out and you don't have a boom, uncontrolled blowout. You have a nice, steady, slow stop. That's pretty neat.
Unsurprisingly, when it comes to beating the spike strip, air-filled tires proved a real letdown. But there's no need to feel deflated. When the MythBusters return,
If you can raise a house with it, you could probably spike-proof a tire.
They'll toughen up a set of tires with AB foam
It's time to roll out the welcome mat.
and then run this roadblock for real. And in the myth of the Geezer Geyser,
Look at that!
the fun continues at a pool party with old pals.
Definitely enough force. Push and hold Buster up. You think?
Can a getaway driver beat a spike strip and escape the police with the aid of DIY toughened tires? Brian and John are going to make their own and put them to the test.
A,
Hey.
B.
Woo! All right, there you go, AB foam. This stuff, you find it everywhere. I mean, they literally insulate stuff with it all the way to raising the foundation of a house. And you figure if you can raise a house with it, you could probably spike-proof a tire.
Ready?
Yeah.
All right, you stand back, buddy.
Should I cover your beard with my hand or something?
It protects itself.
Oh!
There we go. All right. And this one. I'd say that's full. Don't get in the crossfire. How's my beard?
It's doing pretty good.
Once the foam is cured, the guys snap off the excess, weld up the fill holes, and their DIY toughened tires are done.
All right, road spike simulation test in 3, 2, 1. Oh, snap!
So that penetrated pretty easily, but that's not broken up around there. In fact, yeah, not a problem, right?
Yeah.
So that's my question. If these spikes go in, the only thing you have to worry about is forces from the side tearing it up. And I'm impressed.
This might actually work.
But is AB foam a spike buster? Time for the rubber to meet the road.
There's 2 driving components to every heist. Getting to your heist, getting away from your heist. We're gonna put our modified tires through both those tests. The first test is gonna be this course, which is a daily driving, how's it handle type of test. Just a little bit of weaving, a few speed bumps, a sharp corner, and a long drive up to the finish line.
Where it will become our starting line for test 2. Now, we'll be driving away from the scene of our crime as if we're being chased by the cops. But unfortunately, we'll be hitting their spike strips immediately. Not only do we care about what happens to the tires on the spike strips, but also what happens to them afterwards and how the car handles. Because what good's a getaway car if you're not getting away? Ooh, good pass, good pass. It's good to go. These foam-filled tires aren't much heavier than the air-filled tires, which is good for handling. But the bonus is with the extra rigid foam inside, when they roll over the spikes and all the air falls out, it should still be good. AB foam handling test in 3, 2, 1.
Oh, it's a little road construction. Oh, what's that, some potholes? Oh, I hate these potholes. Oh, gosh, yeah. Overall, though, I mean, that's really smooth drive.
And he's back.
So on the leisurely drive to the heist, the AB foam-filled tires performed well.
It's time to roll out the welcome mat.
But how will they fare on a high-speed getaway?
Ooh, look at that peel off. And, ooh, I can hear the air leaving those tires. What a satisfying sound. Oh, oh, snap. Oh. I don't know how much control he really has left because it looks like he just barreled through all that stuff. Oh, good Lord. All right, here it comes. Well, look at that. The front one's running a little flat, but the back two seem like they're doing fine. But the sound on that turn suggests otherwise. Oh, goodness. Woo-wee!
The high-speed footage shows the AB foam tires seem to stand up pretty well to the spike strip.
Can you hear that, Brian? It's the sound of us going to prison.
But with no air left in the tires, the foam takes the full brunt of the speed bumps, begins to disintegrate, and by the second lap, Brian's driving on 4 flats.
I mean, I'm watching you make those turns and stuff, and you're losing more and more control every time you make a lap.
Yeah.
Kind of nuts.
That's exactly it. I was like, I think I could probably make 1 more lap, but I couldn't make 2 more laps.
And an autopsy of one of the tires reveals exactly why Brian's getaway hit a dead end.
Ooh, this looks like some speed bump damage.
Yeah, I think that's what I felt.
Well, there's your problem.
Yeah, this, even if it didn't crumble, still not enough structure to go that far, but you could have driven on that. You can't drive on that.
So the AB foam tires gets an EF grade as MythBusters. Epic fail. Time for a new set of tires. The guys have settled on a heavyweight option.
Do you want to start mixing concrete while I drill holes in this tire?
Yeah, that sounds good.
But will concrete-filled tires deal a knockout blow to the spike strips and make for a clean getaway?
Each one of these concrete-filled tires is 185 pounds more than a tire just filled with air. Now, to put that into perspective, I'm 185 pounds, so that means before anyone even gets in the car to drive it, there's already 4 of me sitting on the car. Now, I have no doubts these things will survive those spike strips, but I feel like they'll totally just shear off the threads that hold them onto the car itself and roll away. I mean, if I don't get away from the cops, I'm sure these tires will. Momentum! Oh, yeah! Whoop.
All right, John, concrete tire handling test in 3, 2, 1.
All right, here comes my very slow, very deliberate start.
Probably a smart move. With each concrete tire adding 180 pounds, the wheels could easily shear clean off the car.
How's it looking from the outside?
Well, John, I've got to be honest. Like my grandmother's driving. So while old Rollin' Thunder makes his way to the heist,
All right, here we go, first speed bump.
there's plenty of time to check back into the myth of the geezer geyser. A tipsy senior citizen had a drink-addled brainwave. Why not go for a dip in the hotel fountain? He bobbed happily across the water's surface in his inflatable ring until, that is, the jets fired up, lifting him skywards and suspending him in the powerful stream for several seconds. Or at least that's the story. But does this tale of hijinks and H2O actually hold water?
All right.
The MythBusters have discovered how to stably suspend a rubber ball in a jet of water.
Ooh, look at that!
That's beautiful, and I think that means these nozzles are important.
But can they pull the same levitational trick
That looks beautiful.
on something a little more like the drunken old geezer in the myth?
Ta-da!
So, on the drunken night, he hung out and said, I'm gonna sit in a giant watermelon.
Yeah, he's drunk.
Yeah, okay.
Gas it a little. Gas it a little. Feels like it's gonna take the weight. You ready?
Yeah.
I'm gonna let go. Oh, snap!
That's something right there. I think this actually applies to this myth really well, because if Mini Buster was drunk, he wouldn't be hanging on to that, would he?
I mean, he literally just fell off of it. I don't think a single nozzle is gonna cut it.
I think there's a fair amount of physics and engineering that's gonna have to be done to make this work, but I have an idea.
The MythBusters are going to rebuild the small-scale fountain with an array of jets encircling a central jet to better replicate the Vegas fountain in the myth.
Woo!
And that process starts with a complex design.
Right.
Our small-scale rig consists of 2 distinct parts, an outer array of nozzles and a single inner nozzle. Now, that outside array has a manifold to help distribute water and pressure evenly among the 6 individual nozzles, which are built like this. Hose, reducer, PVC pipe, and the most important part, the flow straightener to make sure we get the most laminar flow out the top. Now, the inside nozzle is the same thing as that, except it has its own pump and its own flow control valve so that we can regulate the outside and the inside pressure differently. You know, usually some ideas look easier on paper. This is not one of them.
Let's go build this thing.
Let's do it.
All right.
Ooh, fancy. After you, sir.
this looks good. Let's shut it down, tighten those down, and try to float Buster.
Coming up, the guys get some expert help from old pals
I just like hugging it.
to upsize their small-scale fountain to Vegas proportions. And
Okay, here we go.
it's concrete tires versus spike strip. But will this heavyweight duel
Spike strips engaged!
end in a knockout or a blowout?
Oh, yes!
The MythBusters are investigating a tall tale of drunken misadventure in a water feature.
The first time we tried to levitate Mini Buster and his inner tube, we had a single nozzle, which resulted in some kind of interesting lean on the inner tube where he fell out. But now, we have an entire array of nozzles, which I think will give us a pretty stable levitation of Buster and his mini inner tube. Let's say we start with the outside ring first.
Sounds good to me.
Oh! That is pretty cool.
It seems to be riding the outside, and it fell right down where that central nozzle isn't flowing right now.
So what I think you're saying is we should try this with the inner nozzle.
I think it'd be a good idea.
All right.
All right.
First, they'll try the center jet a little higher than the outer array. It's straight over the falls for Buster, but the guys are going to give the inside jet another chance.
Down a smidgen on the inside.
Yeah, you think we can get to like about 6 inches or so below the...
I can get anything you want, John. That's getting close, man.
Close, but no hydraulically suspended cigar. Mini Buster's jet ride lasts for less than a second. But a lower central jet did at least improve hang time a little.
I have no doubt there's one important thing this taught us, and that's that we're gonna have to tune this just right to really make this work. So let's tune it.
Next, the guys dial up the power of both the inner and outer jets and increase the difference in height between them from 6 inches to a foot.
Going on my shirt!
That's beautiful.
This time, the inflatable ring is suspended in the jets for several seconds. And John has an idea, which may allow this geezer to hang on next time.
I think we'd benefit from a slightly more realistic weight Mini Buster because he's pretty light. Then we put a few nuts in there, tape him down like he's hanging on, just so we can find that balance point in our small scale.
By making Mini Buster heavier, the ratio of his weight to his ring's weight will be closer to true scale. It'll also lower his center of gravity, which John thinks should stabilize his ride in the jets. To balance the increased downwards force, a beefed-up Buster will now exert.
Up a little, oh, it's too high.
The guys crank up the outer array to 10 feet and drop the inner jet to 5.
How far?
That's good.
All right.
So will this watery configuration result in levitation?
Buster into a 10-foot tall outer array with half-height inner array in 3, 2, 1. What do you call that? Levitation.
It's a pretty turbulent jet ride for the little guy, but he clings on to his ring for the duration. And clocking a total flight time of 7 seconds, this small-scale test suggests there may yet be some truth to the myth.
Holy moly!
Right, so I think there's only one question now.
You think that fountain still works when it's under the water?
Yeah, how did Buster float on top of that?
We just saw a pretty good levitation of our Mini Buster in his mini inner tube. But the myth does state that our old geezer does float accidentally into a bunch of fountain heads and then gets lifted upwards. So our next step is to drop our nozzle array down under the water and see if we can get the same result. Buster's in position. Go ahead and fire in 3, 2, 1.
That looks different. More like a wave pool than a beautiful fountain.
The stuff is raining back down, it's rippling out, and the ripples are coming back in, and so we're getting like intermittent flow when the nozzle's above water.
Wait, you ready?
Yeah,
pretty.
now,
Nope,
now,
pretty. Nope,
now,
pretty. Nope,
now.
pretty. Okay. Well, I think that might be a setup issue.
So the guys try again, And this time, they're going to give the jets more juice.
You can fire them in 3, 2, 1.
All right, so despite that effect of whatever's going on here, for a moment until he starts getting wish-washed around by all this, it's kind of working.
Yeah, I mean, he floated in there, got shot up, and he lasted just long enough for those waves to come crashing back, destroying his laminar flow, sending him back into the pool.
So, problem?
I think we should try this in a bigger pool so that there's less splash, and then we can try it with full-size nozzles.
Texas-sized fountain?
I like that. Well, if it's a Texas-sized fountain, we should probably get a Texas-sized crew.
Ooh, Tamara and Alan?
I like the way you think.
Go give him a call.
Still to come, Brian and John hit the road with old friends to find a full-size pool and give their small-scale fountain a Texas-sized upgrade. And John's in for a wild ride as he attempts to beat a spike strip
Oh, he is losing it, yep.
and make a clean getaway.
Woo! Save the camera, you're welcome!
The MythBusters are attempting to foil a police spike strip and make a successful getaway using DIY toughened tires. But their first effort with AB foam-filled tires fell flat.
Can you hear that, Brian? It's the sound of us going to prison.
Now the guys have switched to concrete-filled tires, adding 740 pounds to the weight of the car. But while the going is slow on the way to the MythBusters' imaginary heist, the weighty wheels are handling well.
The tires are awfully stiff, but the suspension's doing its job. It doesn't look too bad.
A little longer towards the end when I picked up speed, but other than that, it drives fine.
You want to turn around and go for the gold?
You know I do.
Time for a sharp exit from the scene of the crime. So will the concrete tires survive the spikes and a speedy getaway?
Spike strips engage!
Oh!
I mean, I heard something, but I ain't stopping. Oh yeah, here we go. Ooh, I definitely feel like I'm not really in control. Oh, save the camera, you're welcome. You're welcome. Oh, oh, oh.
Going around for another lap. Oh, across that spike strip again. Woo! Oh, he is losing it. Yep.
Oh, that's not a sexy ride at all. It's getting pretty crazy. Maybe this is gonna be my last lap.
Copy that, John.
Here we go. Oh, still good, camera. And here we go. Ah!
Well, what do you say about that, Mr. New York driver?
If you're going at like 25 miles an hour, you have complete control of the car. You go 35 miles an hour, and then the entire thing is just you going like this down the street.
So I'm not perfectly educated on it, but what's the top speed of a police car?
I'm pretty sure significantly faster than 35 miles an hour.
Even though the concrete-filled tires not only survived the spike strip, but almost ripped it in half, their added weight and lack of traction also destroyed the car's handling. So it looks like it could be the end of the road for this myth.
DIY tires versus spike strips.
Well, the concrete tiles went right over the spikes and nearly cut the strip in two.
Yeah, but what about after you got up to some speed?
Yeah, after that, not so much. I mean, anything over 35 miles an hour, you can't control the car. There's no way you're escaping the law.
Then there's the AB foam-filled tires.
Once the spikes did their work and there's no air left in the tires, it couldn't get over the obstacles.
Yep, destroyed by the weight of the car and the bumps in the road in under a minute.
So, concrete tires, busted.
And AB foam-filled tires, busted.
But the MythBusters haven't given up on getting away just yet. Coming up, a second spike-busting myth. Can a Hollywood skid skip the strip? But now, it's back to the myth of the Geezer Geyser and HQ, where Brian and John have enlisted the help of old pals from the search, Tamara Robertson and Alan Pad.
So, Geezer Geyser, next ups?
So we've done the small scale. We tried one nozzle, an array of nozzles. But what we got to was the point where our small pool was causing waves to crash back over the nozzle, interrupting that stream.
Sounds like we need a bigger pool.
Luckily, we have one.
Yeah, but before we get to that bigger pool, we have to build all of this.
What is this?
Well, we got arrays, outer and inner, manifolds, and scaffolding that lets us adjust everything so we can try to float Buster all the way up.
Oh, you want to build the scaffold?
Ooh, yeah!
So plumbing?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
Right now, John and I, hi John, are using perforated sea channel to build a scaffolding system to hold our middle nozzles in place and keep our outer nozzles adjustable so that we can actually dial in the streams to give Buster the best possible chance of actually being shot up and suspended with water.
Brian and I are working on our water distribution manifolds. We're gonna have 2 of them that are fed by 3 pumps. That'll give us enough pressure for the outer and the inner arrays for our nozzles.
Tamara and I have to spend a lot of time making sure every connection here is right.
I just like hugging it.
We're not dealing with a ton of pressure. I mean, it's a fair amount, but not insane. It's a ton of water. Each of our pumps can handle about 900 gallons per minute of water. Any little leak, and one of those nozzles might not be right. No flying Buster.
It's a demanding and complex build. But after some serious number crunching,
Right, so it's
2x
2x squared equals 18.
Oh, actually, that's a pretty smart way to think about that.
and some not so serious plumbing,
Now, the fountain gods will honor us.
the scaffolding and pipework for a Vegas-sized fountain are complete.
Cool. Looks like we got all the pieces. Why don't we bring them out there and put them together?
Let's do it!
But you can't just build a super fountain anywhere. Time for a drive out to the country where the MythBusters have teed up a location for final testing.
Oh, that's a nice looking pool.
Yeah, it reminds me of when I was a kid going to summer camp.
You went to summer camp?
Nope, too many allergies, couldn't go.
With summer long gone, the pool's deserted, and the perfect spot to build a fountain of Vegas proportions.
All right.
The fountain's inner jet array will be powered by a single pump, while the outer array can take either 1 or 2.
Clear.
So the MythBusters have ordered in 2 large units and 1 very large unit, which they'll use in different combinations.
3 massive pumps in place.
While Tamara gets to grips with the oversized pipework and Brian supervises,
Oh, that's using everything you got. All right.
John and Alan make a start in the pool. So hopefully, John's not allergic to cold water.
So this is a pretty big build in itself, but add in the element of water and it gets even more intense.
It's cold.
It is cold.
Everything that you're doing is actually just zapping the energy and heat out of you.
I can come over plenty. Whatever you need.
Your hands start to cramp up, which takes you longer to actually screw everything in, which then means that you're in the cold water even longer, getting colder, taking longer, getting colder, taking longer. It's a process, but we're almost done.
All right. Oh, that last hose is attached.
Ready to test the center manifold?
Yeah, before we hook the rest of it up and see if it all explodes apart.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's go. Ah! I can't feel my foot. Is that bad?
Yeah.
Brian and John developed the fountain's design during small-scale testing to provide the best shot at levitating Buster and his ring. But with a combined maximum output of 3,000 gallons per minute, these pumps are big league, and there's no guarantee the MythBusters' scaled-up fountain will handle such massive force. Well, there's only one way to find out.
Oh, I'm ready.
On your mark.
Center manifold integrity test in 3, 2, 1.
First, Brian will fire the inner array hooked up to one of the large pumps. So far, so good. But next, the real test. Both arrays firing simultaneously with the outer jets hooked up to the extra large pump. The fountain remains intact, and even with the bigger pump backed off full capacity, the outer jets reach around 60 feet in the air.
Definitely enough force to push and hold Buster up.
You think?
And coming up next,
Go, 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 go! Come on!
it's It's time to find out. The MythBusters have put their super fountain to the test, and the response was gushing. But are its powerful jets capable of suspending a drunken old guy in an inflatable ring, as claimed in the myth?
According to this myth, this geyser has to float exactly on top of a fountain right when it goes off. To make sure that happens, me and John and Tamara are going to be guiding the float with these lines.
But for initial testing, there'll be no Buster, just his inflatable ring. And the MythBusters will start small, firing only the outer jets powered by one of the large pumps.
In 3, 2, 1. All right, let it go. Go, 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 go. Come on, baby!
But even with the large pump at close to full power, the outer jets fail to lift the inflatable ring.
What if we trapped it with the outer like that and then actually use the center to start raising it?
So use both sets of pumps.
Yep, so I'll bring up the power on the outer array too to lock it well in.
Copy that. All right, let's do it. All right, let go. Come on. Oh!
The inner jets did provide extra lift, but not the sustained, stable suspension described in the myth.
Do you think the weight of Buster would help?
Let's throw Buster in there.
In earlier phases of testing, a realistic scale-weight mini Buster with a lower center of gravity was critical to successful levitation. So could the addition of this guy make all the difference?
This guy's got to get that partying under control.
Yeah, I think he had a little bit too much to drink this time.
And what better way to sober up than with a relaxing float in a super fountain?
After a bunch of preliminary tests to hone in everything, I think we're ready to go full scale. That means both array of nozzles, full-size inner tube, and full-size Buster. I think he's gonna go pretty high up since we got that good stabilizing outer ring and a pretty powerful inner array.
Well, there's only one way to find out. Hit the jets, Tex. Much like the previous test, the fountain tips the inflatable ring, and drunken Buster tumbles into the turbulence.
We came up pretty high on that outside nozzle array and almost all the way on the inside one just to get that to happen.
Yeah.
I think we need to go back to that bigger pump on that outside nozzle array.
Whew, all right, let's get set up.
All right.
All right, Tamara, get out of there. Let go.
With the extra large pump hooked up to the outer jets, they kick out a whole lot more juice. But will they hold Buster steady enough for the inner jets to lift him?
Oh!
That's everything we got on the outer array right now.
And still no fountain flight for Buster. John has a theory why.
Every time we see Old Man Buster almost get lifted by the center array, he flips feet overhead. Now that's because he's heavier in the chest than his legs are, just like a normal human being is.
When the small-scale fountain successfully suspended Mini Buster, John had first carefully balanced the weight distribution in his ring. But as an old dude sitting in an inflatable ring would be imbalanced, just like Buster, using counterweights to even things out would be cheating the myth. So the MythBusters instead decide to both reconfigure the fountain and hook it up to all three pumps to attempt to lift Buster one last time.
For this final shot, what we're going to do is we're going to move our inner array out closer to our outer array so that all of our pumps are focusing all of our force on the outer part, which should give us the most stability and the most force, and maybe Buster will actually stay up there.
All right, you guys ready?
Yeah.
All right, this is the big one. In 3, 2, 1.
This is the final call for Drunken Buster. Will he make his flight or get ditched in the drink to drown his sorrows?
Oh yeah! Let go! Go, 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 go! Come on! Come on! Come on! Come on! Come on! Go! Go! I think we maxed out.
That didn't work at all.
No, it didn't.
Look at all the stuff we did for this full-scale test today. We just fired the outer array.
Come on, baby!
We fired both arrays together. We used all the pumps. Even arranged the inner nozzles outside to create some super ring of nozzles. And it still didn't work.
We definitely mastered caging Buster, but levitation not so much.
Yeah, even when we saw Buster start to lift a little above the surface of the water, he would just flip over like a pancake.
I gotta say, this is busted.
Busted.
Agreed.
Still to come.
Brian, you ready?
I was born ready.
Get ready for spike-busting myth number 2, the Hollywood Power Slide. When the MythBusters tested if DIY toughened tires could beat police road spikes,
Oh! I can hear the air leaving those tires.
the myth ended up as busted as the tires. But what if there's another way to beat a spike strip? Well, according to the movie Baby Driver, there is. All you need is a high-powered car, a skilled driver with nerves of steel, and you can drift those spikes clean off the road, then escape to freedom.
Using one of our rear tires to brush aside a spike strip is sort of like trying to do surgery with a sledgehammer, because we're using a full-size vehicle to brush aside something that's about this tall and this wide. To get this right, we need perfect timing and a whole lot of coordination.
And that sounds like a whole bundle of Brian Baby. The MythBusters' very own trainee stunt driver will get expert coaching from law enforcement pursuit and evasion driving instructor Marcus Smith.
All right, first thing is a precision move. You have to get the back end to rotate in an oversteer skid. The problem is if you don't rotate enough, you get a spike. If you rotate too much, the car's gonna be facing in the wrong direction. Let's do it.
Before Brian gets a run at the spikes, he'll hone his technique on a softer target.
Okay, the track is clear.
Copy that. Ready to go.
Oh boy. Here we go. Ooh, Brian, swing and a miss, man. Ooh, so close.
Ooh, that was a good one.
Rotation was good, maybe recovered just a little bit too early.
What's needed is a little less caution and a little more approach speed.
Nice.
Not to mix my sports metaphors, but bullseye!
This time, Brian clips the boxes. But does he really nail the maneuver?
Perfect placement.
I feel like, though, there's not quite enough rotation, but tire placement was spot on.
Yeah, you want to lead with the rear, not the front of the car.
All right, so plus for me is tire placement. Downside for me is not quite enough rotation.
So if Brian's going to beat the spike strip, he'll need to commit even more to the power slide.
Okay, it's time for the real thing. How do you think he's gonna do?
I actually think he's going to do a good job, but I'm rooting for a spike strip.
I understand where you're coming from. All right, let's call him in. Power slide spike strip removal technique in 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Here we go. Oh no! Is that the sound of air leaking out of a tire I hear?
Sounds like it.
And the proof is in the pudding. Or in this case, stabbed deep into the sagging rear tire.
All right, you wanna see a sexy maneuver on high speed?
Oh, yes.
Ooh, oh. Does that look like a rollover to you?
And there's the problem. In order to recover from the power slide, Brian pulls out of the maneuver too early, rolling over rather than brushing aside the spikes.
You make a sweet turn, and then the front tire clears the spike strip, and the back one goes do-doom.
I think you might be right there, but I remember in that movie, it doesn't show how he recovers. It looks like he spins maybe 270, takes his time and drives off. So I say we do this and just cut that recovery so we're only worried about flicking that spike strip.
So Brian Baby's back behind the wheel. But can he slide this myth over the line?
And he's off. Don't move your car, Brian.
Yeah, I can't speed the spike strip, so I thought I'd just hang out here.
Amazingly, all the tires survive intact, but the spike strips wrapped around both back wheels, immobilizing the car. So what went wrong?
Oh, that's sideways.
Brian nails the maneuver, sliding the sidewall of his rear tire into the strip, but he still fails to beat the spikes.
Yeah, you're hitting real nice sideways, but you hit it right in the middle of the strip. So,
Folded it around.
exactly, which makes your getaway a little bit difficult, I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I don't think I could have gone anywhere, but there's a chance I think if I hit it closer to the edge, that'd go differently, huh?
Yeah, good thing you didn't pop any of those tires. You wanna hop back in and give it another go?
No.
Brian, you ready?
I was born ready.
Ooh, he's got the rev. I think he forgot to take it out of park.
Nice. That's not good for this myth.
No, sir, it is not.
Even though Brian slides in perfectly sideways and hits the very end of the strip, just like in Baby Driver, multiple spikes bite into the tire.
I think they caught you, man.
Yeah, I was a little scared to keep going.
It's weird. It's like these spike strips were designed to stop cars no matter what they did.
As though years of engineering and rehearsal and trial and error have caused this to work so well.
So you don't have to be the sharpest spike in the strip to work out the verdict on this movie myth.
So, beating a spike strip with a power slide. I mean, it seems pretty easy in the movies.
Yeah, but even with Brian Baby behind the wheel, nearly impossible in real life.
Yeah, you have to get the rotation of that slide just right to brush the spike strip, but not roll over it.
Not easy. And you have to hit the very end of that spike strip with the tire to have a chance of brushing it away.
Also not easy.
Even if you get the accuracy and the rotation of that power slide right, you end up with spikes in your tire.
So, this mythical move might work in blockbusters, but in real life, it's just plain busted.
Just like those tires.
So, Brian, baby, you ready to try and make another getaway?
Yeah, never gonna catch me, copper.
Yeah, you know I'm not gonna use the spike strip this time, right?
Whoa, whoa, whoa! Uncool!
There is a legend of a man who strapped a rocket to his car and flew. In 2003, the MythBusters brought the legend to life, but it failed to fly.
Darn.
In 2007, they returned, more armed and more dangerous.
He's heading towards the ramp.
But crashed and burned. Now, they're back with a vengeance. So prepare for traction, heart-stopping action,
I got control.
and ultimate satisfaction. Because they're taking this myth to the extreme and beyond.
Who are the MythBusters? Adam Savage
That is science.
and Jamie Heineman.
I'm ready.
Between them, more than 30 years of special effects experience. Together with Grant Imahara,
Oh, it's burrowing!
Carrie Byron,
Always makes me feel dangerous.
and Tori Belleci.
There's something you don't see every day.
They don't just tell the myths, They put them to the test.
Hey there. After 10 years and 200 episodes, we are finally go for launch.
With the myth that launched the legend.
Exactly. To celebrate MythBusters' 10th anniversary of being on the air, we are finally going to tackle once and for all the one that got away.
Rockets and cars.
Yeah, so strap yourselves in, ladies and gentlemen. Can I get an echo here? Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for Jato. Mission accomplished. It's on.
Oh, it's on, because this is Jato 3, and we are all systems go for takeoff. It's the urban legend that began the busting. Supposedly, an airman strapped a jet-assisted takeoff unit to his Impala and rocketed across the desert at 350 miles per hour. But when he hit a bump, his car took to the air and soared for over a mile until a cliff brought his journey to an abrupt end. But did this jet-assisted joyride really take wing? The MythBusters are joining forces to close the case once and for all.
All right, Jato 3, mission accomplished. What is the plan?
Okay, here it is. We do 2 launches. The first one is the original myth as stated. We get a Chevy Impala, strap a reliable set of rockets to it, light them up, and aim them towards a bump in the road.
And see whether it takes off or not.
Exactly.
And if we don't get that, we up the rocket power and add a ramp.
Well, you know, first off, we need a couple of these things. A couple of Chevy Impalas with remote control, Grant.
Sounds good to me.
We are also going to need a safe place from which to steer them, like a mobile command bunker.
Like a MythBusters tank.
Exactly.
This is gonna be insane.
Yes, it is.
And for Destination Insanity, the first element of this rocket rodeo is to chase up a Chevy.
In the testing of this story, we have already utterly destroyed 2 Chevy Impalas. In this very episode, we're destroying 2 more, and this one is the most beautiful of the lot, hands down. This car, somebody loved this car. From the paint job to the red wheels to the cherry white and red leather interior and the custom wooden console, this thing is magnificent with all sorts of attachments like this. Check it out. Yeah. It almost makes you sad to destroy it. Almost.
Almost. But the rockets have to go somewhere. And back at the shop, it's time to unpimp this ride.
That's good.
Wow. They really, really tried to make this car pretty.
The love, you feel the love.
Yeah.
We're about to just throw into a dumpster.
Yep, the car is stripped bare.
As soon as I walked in, the guy said, "Take a seat." And I said, "Okay."
And then Adam brings out his favorite friend.
Yeah!
To clear some junk from the trunk to make room for the rear thrusters.
Now run really fast to push the car.
That are so big, the glass has got to go too.
Wow! What the hell?
There we go. That was awesomely difficult.
Difficult, but for the most important element, it's over to Jamie.
We're going to mount 5 2,000-pound thrust rockets on the back of this car, which means I'm going to have to build a really reinforced mounting system. Why? Well, one of our biggest concerns is that a rocket might become detached from the car after ignition, and that effectively means it would become a missile, and we don't want that.
It's a rocket, man.
So to keep everybody safe, we're triangulating this rocket pocket to as many points on the chassis as we can. Hopefully that'll keep everything where it's supposed to be.
That's one rocket car mod complete, and emotions are running high.
Gotta say, seeing the car in the shop like that, it's a little emotional.
Really?
Well, 10 years ago when we set an Impala up like this for the exact same stunt, we didn't know what was ahead of us. I mean, I have to admit I'm getting a little choked up.
You done?
Yeah.
Good, because we got to get this puppy over to Grant so he can RC it.
All right.
So the Impala rolls out of one shop and into the next,
This is what you call a classic.
where Dr. RC is waiting to give the patient its treatment.
So our classic car is now ready for the radio control treatment, and that is going to include steering, throttle, brake, emergency kill, and something special to switch it into neutral just after the rocket's fired.
That's what it's got to do. And not only is that a huge task, it also comes with some huge stakes.
Believe me, this project, there's a lot of pressure here. It's got to track perfectly straight. It's got to be rock solid. It's got to stop on a dime if anything goes wrong. But if everything goes right, it's got to keep going no matter what. It's going to be a big job, but I think I'm up to the task.
With a lengthy list of previous RC successes,
Stay on target.
it's safe to say Grant has the control under control. So phase 2, the mobile command bunker, can begin.
Ladies and gentlemen, what I have here is the follow vehicle that Jamie and Adam are going to be driving as they go after the Jato rocket car. What we need to do is build some kind of structure around the cab that will give them maximum protection if something goes wrong.
To do that, we're welding a steel cage all the way around the cab. Then we're attaching polycarbonate blast shields all the way around that. Now imagine Jamie and Adam moving down the desert, radio controlling a rocket car from inside this post-apocalyptic sci-fi looking beast. This is gonna be awesome.
Awesome. 5 tons of steel, kinda awesome.
I know this seems like overkill, but remember, we are unleashing a rocket-powered car. This thing's got to be strong. I mean, it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Indeed. So the steel frame is cut,
Am I the only one that has the theme to A-Team going through my head right now?
welded together, hoisted into position, and attached to the truck, which is just what the Heinemann ordered.
Is that beefy enough for you?
I think that's gonna do it.
I mean, you know, it's your life on the line. You guys are gonna be in there driving. So we want to make it as beefy as possible.
Well, thank you.
We don't want you to get hurt, big guy.
Don't touch me.
Sorry.
Jamie's happy, so the frame is finished, and even the rain doesn't ruin this parade.
You're probably asking yourself, how are they going to be able to get into the cab? That's probably the coolest part about this whole thing. And then Jamie and Adam can get in and out. How cool is this? I mean, this is serious Mad Max stuff.
And with some Mad Max reinforcements and a macho paint job, the Road Warrior is primed.
Now all we have to do is cover all the sides with our thick polycarbonate blast shields, and that should create an impenetrable steel cage box covering all of the vulnerable bits so that Jamie and Adam will be able to deflect any shrapnel or, say, stray rockets that come their way.
So the last pieces of the puzzle, the blast shields, are bolted into position on all 3 sides of the cage.
Man, what are we gonna do with this truck when we're done with the experiment?
I think we're ready for the apocalypse.
And with that, the truck bunker is ready to hit the road. Meanwhile, next door,
Oh, morning, everybody.
Grant has finally finished remote controlling the Impala.
Okay, so this car is ready to go with all of its radio control. But you know what? It hasn't been tested all together as a system yet. So to do that, we need to go somewhere remote, where there aren't a lot of people or things to crash into.
Well, the New Jerusalem runway should fit that bill.
A little foggy this morning.
Yep. Shall we drive a car while standing in a single location?
Sounds like a plan to me.
Sounds like a plan.
That could have gone better.
But this time, there's a twist.
Normally, we radio control full-size cars like you would a toy car, just by operating a transmitter and driving it. But for obvious reasons, it'd be best if we had a view that was exactly like it was in the car. And so what we've done is we put a camera in this car right where the driver would be, giving us the same view, and we're going to try to drive it via monitor. It's sort of like a virtual reality system.
Yeah! Yep, and once the motor is running...
We're on. Excellent.
With only the monitor for reference...
And here we go.
Grant takes the Impala for a spin.
It's moving.
There it goes.
After a ginger start,
Look at that.
it's clear that Grant's years of GTA have paid off.
Line it up on the white line. Oh, hey. Oh, you're trying to miss the camera.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do.
Nice. Oh.
And the virtual remote control system is also ahead of the curve.
You stop and brakes on.
Well done.
All right.
That fantastic systems check.
Yeah.
So that was a successful test. You know, the car starts, that it drives, that it stops, that it steers, kind of. As a bonus, we can switch it into neutral when we have to and kill it if anything goes awry.
That is a very promising systems check.
Yeah, not a bad start.
A few tweaks here and there, and we'll be good to go.
Well, let's head to the desert.
In this urban legend, a speed freak strapped a rocket to his car, hit a bump, and flew through the air for over a mile until a cliff brought his sky ride to an end. It's the very first one that got away. And despite 2 previous attempts, this myth has remained unanswered. So now, the MythBusters are back in the Mojave to put it to rest once and for all.
You know what? I never get tired of doing experiments in the desert.
I don't think I do either. It's a good day for rockets and mayhem.
Well, this is it. I know it looks like I'm standing in the middle of nowhere, but in point of fact, I'm standing on the Cuddyback Dry Lake bed in the Mojave Desert. 5 miles long, 2 miles wide. This is where the first episode of MythBusters we ever shot 10 years ago reaches its natural conclusion. This is where our rocket car, our Chevy Impala, hopefully will finally catch some air.
So, all that's left is to attach the rockets to the car and go for it, right? Well, actually, no. See, first, we have to nail down our safety. Then we have to measure out a length of desert highway. And then we have to check the RC system. And when we're happy with all that, then and only then do we attach the rockets to the car. Which means I better get back to work, huh?
There's a lot to do, but as always, it's safety first.
Now, once these rockets go off, this car is gonna turn into a 5,000-pound missile. And if it decides to go off course, we're gonna need protection. And that's where this comes in. This is a Hunter blast-resistant steel building. And it can withstand a 1,200-pound ampo blast 75 feet away. And it is 2 times more blast-resistant than a reinforced concrete building. I'm gonna feel really safe inside of there.
That's mission control sorted. But Adam and Jamie will ride in the belly of the beast.
How do you like the beast?
I'm speechless. I think we'll be safe in it. That thing is seriously badass, but, you know, it's missing one little touch.
That's how you take a myth by the horns.
That's everyone protected.
Yeehaw!
So next up is that highway to the danger zone.
So the myth is that our driver hit this bump on the side of the road and got airborne. Now, the side of the road, it's not a huge bump. It's just about a speed bump. So we're gonna make this little berm, this little bump, out of these 50-pound sandbags.
Actually, a line of 50-pound sandbags about 50 feet long. Oh, crap, this one's leaking.
It's ironic. It's like we're getting ready for a flood in the desert.
For visibility, it's back to black for the berm, while Adam is fashioning the guideline.
Well, they told me I'd be working on the runway, so I put together something a little special. In fact, this is one of our white stripes. We're going to lay them out for about 300 feet right down the center line, and these will be what we will use to aim the car towards ground zero. Perfect.
Nailed it.
Next, the route is lined with cones, and then there's one final and very important mark to make.
So we have decided to set off the rockets at 200 feet before the target. That'll give the rockets enough time to burn to get the car up to speed and make sure we hit our target. However, there is one problem.
The problem is that there's a 1-second delay between the time I push the button and the rockets ignite. And we want that to happen well before the berm. That's why I have this big black marker here. When I need to push the button. No pressure here.
No pressure. And with the fast lane set, Jamie's bumper to bumper on the car.
This may look like a heck of a bumper, but that's not actually what it's here for. It's here for its weight, because we need the car to fly like a rocket. And to do that, it's crucial that we have proper balance. In rockets, you need to have the center of gravity forward of the geometrical center. And so, since we've added a lot of weight in the back, because our rockets are actually quite heavy, we need to add a bunch of extra weight on the front of the car, and hopefully we'll bring that center of gravity forward enough to do the job.
Yep, and with the bumper on the front, the rockets are carefully loaded onto the back.
Does this look as dangerous as it feels?
Is that a rocket in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me?
Yes.
But for safety, they won't be wired to ignite until launch.
Okay, that's it.
And speaking of ignition, time to check the Cobra firing system.
The rockets are in, but more importantly, the ignition system is in. Now this is critical because this is where everything could go horribly wrong.
This is ignition test in 3, 2, 1. That's awesome!
It's awesome. And with the car dressed for success, Adam's getting excited.
For me, the most intensely rewarding thing about doing this story now is thinking about the last 10 years and how far we've come. I look at the very first rocket car story, the first story we shot, the first story that aired 10 years ago, and we were so green. We knew so much less than we know now. Yeehaw! And it really feels rewarding to be back out in the desert, putting the final nail in the coffin of this story, hopefully, and putting it to rest once and for all. It feels great.
The next check to make is the remote control. And for that, Grant's reinvented the steering wheel.
Everybody clear! They're going to be using these controls, which include gas, steering, brake, and of course, the kill switch. All this is going to put Jamie as close as he can be, while still being safe, to being in the driver's seat.
Yep, and now to put them into the beast. Along with something that helps them keep their eye on the prize.
Well, what this is an eye tracking system created by a company called iTech, and they use an infrared camera to track the movements of my eyes. That information is sent wirelessly to the rocket car and the camera that's in it, and so when I look right or left, that camera is looking right or left. Now, what's neat about this is that I'm essentially in the car experiencing this thing. I can look around, I can see the same image as if I were there in that car with the rockets going.
And with the controls in situ,
I'm ready.
Inside the beast, Adam and Jamie prepare for a static range test.
Okay, I need you to step on the brake.
That is so cool.
Car going into drive. Okay, chocks away. Okay, Jamie, it's under your control.
The theory is that this system should have at least 1,500 feet of range, which is something Jamie quickly proves.
You're at 1,500 feet. That's fantastic. You still have control?
Yeah.
Excellent.
First test couldn't have gone better. I was able to steer perfectly, stop perfectly. I had good acceleration. Everything's working like a charm.
Working like a charm. But now, to add another layer of complexity.
In this test, both the white car and our truck will be moving so that we can make sure we are within radio range as long as possible.
So this time, both Mythbusters are in the driver's seat. Jamie for the Beast and Adam the Impala. And with the shields down, they hit the gas.
In 3, 2, 1, go. 10 miles an hour. Target. 20 miles an hour.
However, controlling one moving vehicle from another isn't easy.
You're going way off.
Oh, it's moving off to the right a bit. Oh, it's way right. Get back in the center.
As the car veers out of control at 50 miles per hour,
Stop!
Adam puts the brakes on the test.
All I see is a cloud of dust.
I can't even see the car anymore.
This is a great example of why you run tests, because that didn't work at all. Trying to drive the rocket car via the remote screen while the dump truck is moving threw my sense of direction and steering completely out of whack. It's not feasible. We've got enough signal strength to make it to the berm, we're pretty sure. There's enough things that could already go wrong without adding that difficulty, so the truck will remain stationary for this test.
With so much that could go wrong, it's all about limiting risk, which means keeping it simple and keeping the Beast stationary. So the last thing to worry about is the rockets.
For due diligence, we test fired one of the rockets out of the batch of rockets we're going to be using on the cars. And it was successful. The thing is that these rockets are basically a controlled explosion, and to get the most power per pound out of them, they push them right to the edge. And if they make a mistake and they push them a little too far, you've got a pipe bomb. And that's basically what happened on the second rocket car. This time, since we've done test fire and it was successful, we anticipate we should have a successful run on the cars.
Well, those could be famous last words. But with the equivalent force of a Jato wired for action,
This is gonna be awesome.
this little Impala is packing heat.
In plain talk, 10,000 pounds of thrust is 4,500 horsepower. That's a lot of go fast.
A lot of go fast. And with the rockets locked, loaded, and live, the countdown can begin.
All right, this is it. 10 years in the making from the very first episode of MythBusters. And here is how our test is gonna work.
Adam and I will be driving the rocket car from inside this thing right here, which we call the Beast. It's our mobile bunker.
Tori Grant and I will be here in the command center, monitoring the car, getting up to speed. When it hits its mark, I'll hit this button.
And then, 1 second later, the rockets will ignite, and that rocket car will go racing straight into the berm.
And if all of that works absolutely perfectly and this myth is true, we should find this car converted into nothing but a hunk of metal embedded in that mountain over there.
Well, at T-minus 30 seconds, everybody gets into position to test that theory. Adam and Jamie are hunkered inside the Beast.
For real? You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Tori and Carrie have their fingers on the button inside Mission Control.
All right, Grant, go ahead and start the car.
I have got butterflies in my stomach.
And Grant starts the car. Grant starts the car.
Just when you think you've got the radio, the video, everything else all figured out, the car won't start.
It's a last-minute stall, but Jamie gives the Impala some gas. And eventually, it sputters to life. So at T-minus 40 seconds, it's chocks away.
Okay, the rockets are armed. We are on our way.
And then finally, it's all over to Adam.
All right.
All right, all systems are ready. You ready?
I'm ready.
I swear my heart's beating like 100 times a second. Here we go. Carrie, are you ready on the button?
Ready.
Tori, are all the cameras rolling?
We are ready here in the bunker.
All right, let's do this. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Rocket car, Jato, mission accomplished in 3, 2, 1. Break off. Here we go.
There she goes.
Since the beginning of MythBusters in 2003, the team has put over 850 myths to the test. But one legend has long eluded them. And now, after a decade, they're back for the ultimate conclusion. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, start your rocket engines. 'Cause this is Jato 3. It's the myth of a rookie rocketeer who attached a Jato to his car and went from 50 to 300 miles per hour in no seconds flat. But when he hit a bump in the road, he was launched into urban legend and a cliff face. But will that be the case when the legend comes face to face with reality?
I, for one, believe that the rockets will ignite right about where I'm standing. The car will reach 120 miles an hour when it hits the berm. It will not take off from the ground until it gets above 200 miles an hour, at which point its direction will become unstable and it will roll 5, 6, 7, or 8 times.
What do I think's gonna happen? I think Adam's gonna drive perfectly straight down the course. Carrie's gonna ignite the rockets at the perfect time. They're gonna go off, accelerate the car to incredible speed, and it's gonna smash right through the berm and continue on its merry way on the ground.
What do I think's gonna happen? I think there's gonna be one heck of a speed bump.
I further predict that Jamie's prediction will be, I don't know what's going to happen. That's what the experiment's for.
What's my prediction? What do I know? If I knew what was going to happen, we wouldn't be doing the test.
Told ya!
There's so many things that could go wrong right now that I'm not really concerned whether or not this car's gonna fly. I just want to make sure it drives straight, the rockets go off at the right time, and it hits the berm. Is it gonna fly? I don't know. But if it doesn't, it's not for a lack of trying.
Arming?
Indeed. And with the rockets armed, the car primed, and the team hunkered in their bunkers.
I swear my heart's beating like 100 times a second.
After a decade of myth-busting and 2 failed attempts, the myth comes down to this. Will the Impala finally take flight? Or will it go down in flames and MythBusters history?
Rocket car towards the berm. 5 rockets in 3, 2, 1. We are starting off. Brake is off.
There she goes.
Okay, the car is rolling.
Doing good. Yeah. Perfect.
It's hearts and mouths time
25.
as Adam slowly accelerates the car up to 50 miles per hour.
You're drifting. Straighten it out.
Yep.
And back on the center line.
37. You're doing good.
Get ready, Carrie.
The Impala reaches the black flag.
You're gonna make it.
Over we go.
Wow!
Well,
Yes! I saw sky! I saw sky just for a second. Woo!
they got airborne.
That was amazing!
Wow.
That was insane. 1 second the car was there, and the next second it was gone.
On ignition, the Impala rocketed to 200 miles per hour, barreled over the berm, careened out of control, and twisted through the air, leaving in its wake the kind of debris you only get when you combine the MythBusters, rockets, and cars.
Wow. That thing is mangled.
Holy cow!
That's a work of art.
Yep, this is what happens between a rocket and a hard place.
See it. but I don't believe it.
Oh my God, the front end is completely smashed.
That is cool looking.
Aw.
Wow. Did it even catch air?
I saw it clear about 20 feet or so. It was quite a ways after the berm, but who knows what it was doing. It was just going nuts.
But it was nothing like the myth.
No, it was far more out of control.
Far more out of control, because one thing is for sure, that Impala certainly didn't make the Mile High Club.
Rockets!
Look at that.
And then, oh, you know what? The wheel went under, it went sideways, it flipped end over end, and wow! That thing got tore up. Beautiful.
That might be my favorite high-speed shot I've ever seen.
That was gorgeous.
And I love that it lands on its base. Oh, and there goes the tire.
It's rocketed to #1 for Adam. And for Carrie, it was one heck of a nail-biter.
This is one of the most nerve-wracking experiences of my life. The car starts to move. It's kicking up dirt like crazy. It's moving faster and faster. It's getting closer to the mark. My hand is shaking above the ignition button. I'm waiting. The car approaches the black marker. It crosses, I push the button, and then the longest second of my life begins. There's a lag time, but my heart doesn't know that. I stop breathing, the butterflies are puking in my stomach, and then whoosh, rockets ignite, the car screams towards the berm, goes over it, and then starts to veer to the left, and then end over end, engines, wheels, carnage. Great experiment.
A great experiment that was worth the wait.
Now, when I first started on MythBusters, Adam told me it's probably gonna last about a year. And I can't believe 10 years later, we are back out here in the Mojave Desert testing the very first Myth Jato rocket car. And everything went perfect. The car went straight, the rockets went off, we hit the berm, it flew up into the air, flipped around, and then crashed. The best part is, we finally got to the bottom of this myth. He didn't fly into the cliff. This one's busted. Finally.
And although we didn't see a car fly, you can't say they didn't try.
Well, what can you say? We're not rocket scientists. I do want to point out, though, that the only thing that survived this whole thing was what I built and things that were attached to what I built. It's still here. The rocket pocket and the truss. Heck, the whole engine fell off. The whole front of the car fell off.
I think it's pretty clear. What we have here is a case of Mythus testus. We just have to find the culprits.
So as the sun sets on the wreckage, those culprits can close the case.
So do you guys want to call the myth 10 years later?
I think we can definitively say that the original rocket car myth, once and for all, totally busted.
Is this the part of the story where we get to replicate the results?
Let's do it.
Yes!
As the sun rises here on the Mojave Desert, allow me to welcome you back to Jato Mission Accomplished. 10 years ago, on our very first ever episode of MythBusters, we replicated a famous urban legend by strapping a rocket to a car, and it did this. 4 years later, in 2007, with more knowledge and more rocketry, we attempted to go bigger and ended up with this. Or not. Clearly, we still had work to do. So, earlier on in this very episode, we replicated precisely all the circumstances of the original myth, and we ended up with this. Here's how it looked. But of course, that's not good enough for us, because a rocket doesn't bounce along the ground. A rocket flies through the sky. That is our goal. That's what we're here to do. Shall we begin?
Yep, the show ain't over until the rocket car flies. So here's that second Impala they made earlier. Fitted with a heavy-duty rocket pocket and a remote control system. It's identical to Impala 1, but this time it's racing red.
All right, so here's what we're gonna do differently. First of all, we're gonna give the Impala 6 rockets. That's 20% more power, and by our calculations, should get it airborne. But second, and most importantly, we're gonna give this car a little jump start on gravity.
So to see the Impala take flight this time around, they're literally ramping up the test.
This time we're getting that car airborne no matter what it takes, and we've decided what it takes is a ramp. Can we get some help over here?
Yeah! This is exactly how the Egyptians did it.
Moving in, moving in.
We built more than a few in our 10-year tenure on MythBusters. We built a huge one out of dirt for the Dukes of Hazzard jump. And we used a couple of old shipping containers to launch the second rocket car. Actually, it didn't launch at all. But for this one, we've decided to build the ramp wholly from scratch. Why? Because it turns out after all these years, we now know how to do that.
Well, maybe not exactly from scratch, because you know what?
This is very similar to the barn raisings Jamie used to do as a child.
They already make these things. They're pre-manufactured and they're called roofs. We're also going to put them together with screws so we can recycle the lumber.
It's a roof job, but someone's got to do it.
Next on speed building. Will they get the roof done before the sun goes down?
Well, yes. And remember, this isn't just a ramp. It's also a launching pad.
This ramp's job is to send that rocket car up in the air. In order to do that, it has to change its direction, which means it has to take all its forward momentum and alter it slightly, which means we have to spread a tremendous load right here at the front part of the ramp, which we've done with 5 inches thick of wood spreading that load. Hopefully that'll be enough.
Hopefully, because at 32 feet wide, 65 feet long, and 11 feet off the desert floor, that's one rugged ramp. But to become part of the Jato legend, it's going to need to look the part.
Oh, yeah!
Jump that way.
That way. Hopefully the car will obey the arrow. Uh-oh. I see a problem.
Well, there she blows. 1,100 feet of white line fever ending in what is undoubtedly the most beautiful ramp we have ever made on this show. And it's only ever going to get one set of tire tracks.
Only one set, courtesy of Big Red, which is ready and raring for a quick systems check.
Okay, Jamie, go ahead.
Brake is off. Nice acceleration, nice and smooth.
Yes! That was so straight, he's got it!
I'm stopping.
Woo!
Just add rockets. Good job.
The launch pad, the car, and its new pilot, the Heinemann, are good to go. So now to add that explosive payload, the rockets.
This time, we're using 6 rockets. That's 12,000 pounds of thrust.
Yep, this car is more armed and more dangerous, with a total thrust
Perfect.
of 5,400 horsepower.
2, 3. Yeah,
Sorry about the wrestling, but
it's better to have a tight fit than a loose fit.
that's true.
That's what I always say.
And with the rockets locked and loaded, there's just one more thing to add.
Now, I'm sure there are those among you at home who are familiar with rocketry who are wondering to yourselves, why don't we make our jobs a little easier by pulling the engine and putting a nice long tail fin stabilizer on this? Well, you see, we think of that as cheating. That turns this into a car-shaped rocket. What we want is a rocket-powered car, and that's what this is.
It's a rocket-powered car, and it's going to hit the ramp at full tilt. But will that combo finally get the Impala to fly high?
Since the dawn of time, man has never seen such engineering and ingenuity, all aimed towards one goal, one purpose: to get a car to fly like a rocket. Until now.
The story went that an airman strapped a Jato to his car, rocketed across the desert, hit a bump, and soared for over a mile. But that fatal flight is busted
So we tested the myth exactly the way it was described, yet we could not get the rocket car to fly. So now we are back for my favorite part, which is replicating the results, or at least giving it everything we got.
Everything, because they've pimped the Impala with 12,000 pounds of thrust. And they're taking the high road.
This, ladies and gentlemen, is the one-way path that our rocket car is going to be going down. It's one way because once it goes down that path, that's the last time you're going to see it looking like it does now. Ain't she pretty?
Now, our calculations say that a ramp height of 11 feet is ideal for giving us the best possible chance of getting flight. Now, if the rockets do their job, we have a projected distance of at least a mile.
That's the theory, but after 10 years of myth-busting, Adam's not quite convinced.
Jamie and I expect our car to hit the base of our ramp at 88 miles per hour, but the rockets will still be reaching their full power. We expect it to probably leave the ramp going 200 miles per hour. I'm predicting at least 700 or 800 feet. I don't think it's going to go a mile. I don't think it's going to go 3.5 miles. I'm saying 700 or 800 feet.
And that's if it even makes it up the ramp, because rockets can be anything but predictable. However, with only one car left, this is their last shot. And it's all down to the Heinemann.
Shields are engaged. It's all you, buddy.
The pressure is on, because he must keep the car on track and hit the ramp dead center to bring 10 long years of sweat, blood, and gears to its ultimate conclusion.
Let's do it.
Once again, Grant starts the Impala.
Sounds great.
Cheating to the bunker.
Arming.
Then the rockets are armed.
Take it away, you guys.
And it's the final countdown.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the final journey of the rocket car 10-year anniversary. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Brake is off. Car is moving.
Jamie slowly accelerates the Impala towards the ramp.
10, 11, 12, 13. You're right on center. You're looking great. 21, 22. You're slightly steering to the right of the black line. 31, 32. You're doing great. 37, 39, 40. You're doing fantastically.
All right, you guys are looking good. Center up. He's gonna hit that hill.
There goes the rockets. Wow. I have no idea what happened. All I see is smoke.
Well, luckily, viewers, you've got the best seat in the house.
Wow, that was intense.
Because it's clear that the rocket car finally flew.
Wow!
For 10 fleeting seconds, it pirouetted through the air.
Do you see that? It hit the ramp and just did a spin in the air. That was insane!
It's just a pity about the crash landings in between.
That's intense. Let's go check it out.
As the remains of the Impala are doused by the fire department,
Yeah! Woo!
the MythBusters go in for a closer look.
Looks like the whole car's been pushed up inside its chassis.
Wow.
Oh, man.
This car seems to have met an angry giant.
Now that's what I call an ending. Woo!
Isn't that something?
You know, I'm becoming kind of fond of the steaming hulks that we are getting used to seeing after these things.
The Steaming Hulk. That's our MythBusters superhero.
Yeah.
The Steaming Hulk.
So I guess no jet-powered car on the way home, huh?
Nope, I think this is a total loss.
It's a total loss for the car, but an epic win for the MythBusters.
Well, that was about as neat a run as you could hope for. Once Grant had started the car, gave us control, and everyone was in their bunker, Jamie started the car. Started off at a nice low speed, gave it a little bit of gas, stayed really dead on center. At the moment it crossed Carrie's button line,
I couldn't see a thing. I'm looking straight out the windshield, and all I saw was smoke. For all I knew, the whole thing blew up right there on the stand. What happened? And then the smoke starts to clear, and as the smoke's clearing, I can see that Jamie has perfectly hit the ramp. I mean, totally straight, but with a tremendous amount of force. The ramp seems torn up. After that, all we could see behind the ramp is just a smoking hulk. We approached it with our shields on and waited for the fire department to put it out. The amount of destruction on that is truly shocking. There's nothing car-like about it anymore.
This couldn't have gone any better. The car went straight down the track. The rockets went off at the perfect timing. It went off the ramp, but even with all that power, it did not fly as far as the myth claims. It did fly, though, and after seeing that crash, you couldn't ask for a better result.
Look at this ramp! Oh my gosh! Look at this! Not even through the dust cloud. Jamie nailed it straight up the center. He tore up the ramp and the rockets blew the carnage backwards. Beautiful.
Ertz, when you think about man-made things that are intended to fly, like an airplane, a missile, an arrow, they all have something in common. They're not shaped like a car. Even with the benefit of incredible thrust, perfect weight distribution, a ramp to give it an ideal initial trajectory, we couldn't make this car fly more than 600 feet. The myth of the rocket car, it's busted.
I guess we're still a ways away from those flying cars everybody wants.
Yep, finally this myth, just like the car, is totally and utterly busted.
Well, I think our work here is done.
I think so.
Please don't try what you're about to see at home.
We're what you call experts. Yeah.
Well, there's your problem.
In this special series of MythBusters,
Almost too exciting.
the Dream Team tackles their dream themes.
It's scientific!
Testing myths about everything from electricity to pressure and gravity.
This one hurt a bit.
Shaking down the science of shockwaves, velocity, and impact. With crazy chemistry,
Oh my goodness.
far-out physics,
Fun for the whole family.
and insane explosions.
Everybody okay?
Life's burning questions answered. On MythBusters, there's your problem. This episode, the MythBusters take to the air with 3 myths about helicopters, featuring unbalanced rotor blades and unlucky scuba divers. Then they chomp down to a simpler flight mode with 3 myths about the science of gliding, including a glider made of concrete?
3, 2, 1, go.
First, can you hang off a moving chopper's landing skid and climb aboard the cabin just like the movies?
That's a great myth, but nobody's gonna let us hang from a real helicopter.
You're right, and that is why we're gonna build our own helicopter.
Oh, you mean like make a mock-up helicopter with skids and everything, and then put a fan in front of it that blows 80-mile-an-hour winds, just like cruising speed of a real helicopter.
It's like you're reading my mind. And then what we'll do is we'll measure the downdraft created by a helicopter, and that'll transfer into a weight that we'll wear while we're experimenting.
Perfect.
Helicopters. Since they first took to the skies back in the 1940s, their complex design has raised a cloud of physics conundrums. To test this myth, the guys need to focus firstly on the downdraft created by a helicopter's horizontal rotors. Downdraft creates lift for the chopper, but could spell doom for the myth.
That might be a lot of air pressure that could potentially knock you off. So we need to figure out a way to measure that downforce. So what I have here is Grant's head and shoulders. This is gonna give us the same surface area as somebody holding on to the helicopter skids. Now, I've attached Grant to the scale, so that way if there's any change in the downforce, we'll be able to measure it. Works.
Now, obviously, the most direct way to test this myth would be to try to hang from a helicopter while it's flying. But unfortunately, the insurers tell us it's too dangerous. But don't worry, because we have a cunning plan which still involves a real helicopter. And we've enlisted the help of Making Air helicopters to test this myth.
So they're about to find out how much downdraft there is by hovering directly overhead the head.
Look at that. It's increasing to 500 or now 700 as it's getting away from the center of the helicopter.
Right.
When Grant's head on a scale is near the outer circumference of the rotor blades,
Now it's at 900.
the downdraft peaks at almost 1 kilo. But the myth is all about climbing up onto the skids.
We want the skid to be just above scale.
Bring him in a little closer.
And in close, the downforce is surprisingly small.
Yeah, look at that. It goes down to about 50 grams.
Really?
So it's roughly around 50 to 80 grams when he's just hovering.
Which is fairly insignificant. And even a sudden takeoff doesn't make much difference.
So it got up to a little over 100 grams on that one.
100 grams is nothing. Your clothes weigh more than 100 grams.
So we just finished testing the downforce of the helicopter, and the results were very consistent. We had him hover above our scale. As he came down, the weight increased. However, it only got to 50 grams, which is nothing. I mean, your clothes weigh more than that. And at one point, we had him punch it as if he was taking off, and it peaked at about 130 grams, which is still not that much weight. So it looks like the downforce of the helicopter really isn't gonna affect your ability to hang on to the skid.
So, somewhat unexpectedly, the team can ignore the downdraft from the chopper blades and go to work at the next location.
Best commute ever.
No signs prohibiting heavy machinery or MythBusters. Perfect. Because at the pool, they've got everything they need, including a cool chopper mock-up Jesse knocked up at the shop.
That's cool.
We got a helicopter.
That is awesome.
That's perfect.
All right, so it may not be a real helicopter, and a lot of it is made from plywood, but I'd have to say it's a pretty darn good helicopter for the amount of time I had.
Where's Rick and TC, man?
Most importantly, everything is to spec. These struts are 45 degrees, and the skids are 3-inch diameter tubing, just like a real helicopter.
Now, how many times have you watched in an action film somebody jump onto a helicopter and climb up as it's taking off? Now we get to try it. I mean, we're living out our action hero fantasies.
The idea is that we will be suspended over a pool. Buster PI ready for takeoff. That way, if we fall, we'll just fall in the pool. We have liftoff. We have liftoff here. The goal is to hang on to the skid, pull yourself up and over and into the cockpit to safety. Oh, a little turbulence. Hang on, everybody, hang on.
But a set of realistic skids on a fake chopper is not the only obstacle the guys will encounter on their climb to safety.
Based on our test with the real helicopter, we know that the downward force at hover is minimal. But let's face it, this is an action movie. They have to fly away. How do you simulate flight at a swimming pool? With this. This is a 6-foot diameter fan blade connected to a 350 horsepower big block engine. It's capable of generating wind speeds of up to 95 miles per hour. That's enough to simulate the cruising speed of our helicopter and more than enough to test this myth. That's like an instant hurricane. It might blow my clothes off. Maybe you should wear 2 pairs.
Ladies, get ready.
We have liftoff here.
All right, so this is what I think should happen, guys. We hang on, but we can't start doing any climbing until we actually hit the airstream.
Well, then the goal here is to climb up onto the skid, get yourself safely inside the helicopter without falling into the water.
All right, so who goes first?
Not it.
Not it.
I guess I'll go first.
Don't tell her about the piranhas.
I think I'm gonna do just fine. I got a good technique, and it's gonna get me up and over. It's just those winds that I'm quite curious about.
Yep, and it's those 80-mile-an-hour winds simulating a helicopter's cruising speed and the accurate undercarriage and skid structure that gives this test the seal of authenticity. But none of that stops stunt girl Jessie. She was slick, quick, and her technique looked like it was straight out of a movie script.
Nice job! You're like a little monkey.
Good one.
Okay, so those winds are pretty intense. I mean, look, it unfolded my pant leg.
Yeah, your shirt almost got blown.
We weren't kidding when we were talking about blowing our clothes off. This is pretty large tubing, so if you have little hands, it's gonna be difficult to hang on to, because I could feel myself starting to kind of slide off. And then, once you got into the wind, I was like, the winds are insane. My ponytail's sideways, my pant leg has come undone, my shirt almost flew off. And then when standing up on the skid, it's a little bit more difficult than you thought it would be, because you do have those pressing winds, but once you're in, you're safe.
The key to Jessie's success was speed. And if you throw in the fact that this test is all about strength to body weight ratio, being a lot lighter, she's got a big advantage over the guys. So, will they be able to match her?
All right, you ready?
That was nuts. I was hanging onto the skid, and as I was going out, I was like, yeah, this is fine. And then all of a sudden, I hit that wind, and I was like, I'm not gonna make it. I'm gonna fall into the water. That was crazy.
Crazy? Sure, but also very achievable. And with Grant scrambling to safety, with just a wardrobe malfunction to worry about,
Get to the chopper, God!
the Myth and the boys' silver screen dreams are looking good.
Man, he wanted to live! I'm alive! I made it to the chopper!
You see his shirt come up? Damn, thank God his pants didn't come off.
Take that, action heroes.
That was such a fun test, and it's possible to climb into a helicopter as it's taken off.
Yeah, but it's definitely not as easy as it looks in the action movies.
I think we did pretty good for a couple of average Joes.
Next, can a firefighting helicopter suck up a scuba diver?
Well, the story goes that a scuba diver was found in a tree in the middle of a charred forest about 50 miles inland. And the speculation was that the scuba diver was scooped up by one of those firefighting helicopters or airplanes and dumped in the forest. They have these things called Erickson sky cranes. They're huge helicopters. They have a tank, and they have a hose coming down out of the tank. There's a pump on the end of the hose. What's inside these pumps, these things that they have on the end of helicopters, is actually just a propeller blade. It's not that unlike what's on the end of an outboard. So let's get an outboard and reorient it. We do a little welding. We're there.
To be right on spec with a firefighting helicopter's pulling power, this outboard's got to have some serious mechanical muscle.
225 horsepower is a lot of horsepower. Turning a 13 or 14-inch propeller. Yeah, that's a lot of horsepower.
Look, he giggles like a schoolgirl. It's so cute.
The 225 engine will mean they can run it at half throttle and still get a horsepower range that's well above what the Myth involves.
Can I just take this home?
But that's not all they need.
Looking for a funnel, which is kind of hard to make, actually, and they just have stuff like that here.
Over here, guys. But I can see Jamie, oh, well, maybe if we cut it down on the lathe and then, cast it and mold it in a different material and then sent it away to be replicated by some military organization, it'd be pretty simple. One of his ridiculous solutions. Can't believe that guy.
Jamie's methodical attention to detail pays off.
Hey, Adam, did you hear the guy tell us what this was for?
What was it for?
It was like fecal matter.
And soon enough, he finds the right funnel.
But it is separable from the other machinery, and I figure like it'd end up about there.
Looks like I have to eat my words. I'm sorry, Jamie.
Due to its size and weight, the plan is to mount the entire rig on a forklift, so it can still be portable. The outboard alone weighs 500 pounds. Once that's in position,
Perfect.
a steel frame for the outboard is welded into place.
Go for it.
Then the original drive shaft is removed from the outboard.
There we go.
For the scuba diver pump, they'll have to build a new and much longer drive shaft. Because it'll be spinning at high RPM, the shaft must be accurately machined on a lathe.
A sealed U-joint is really quite a beautiful thing.
The propeller is cut down and carefully balanced to avoid vibrations.
We're mounting the propeller the wrong way around.
That's so that rather than pushing the water down, it'll be sucked up towards the outboard. To control the water flow, the shaft must be encased in a heavy steel pipe. And Adam describes in detail what will happen to the pumped water.
Shoot up that way. Like that. Just a godly torrent of water.
That torrent will be vented away from the motor by angling the pipe.
This thing, if it works well, is going to launch something like a Volkswagen out the end of that tube every few seconds.
Then the funnel is cut down and a guard is attached to replicate the real thing. Mounted on a forklift and weighing close to 1,000 pounds,
It's like a pageant for my baby.
the Scuba sucking pump is moved into position for its maiden voyage. And Buster's ready and waiting at the pool with his scuba suit, yet again taking one for the team. Also joining the crew is outboard motor expert Jay. He'll ensure the engine doesn't burn out. The pump is lowered into position for its test run. The rig works and Adam's thrilled. But the pump must measure up to the heli tanker's pulling power of 3,000 gallons of water per minute by filling this 2,000-gallon tank in 45 seconds.
Ready? Go for it.
The Scuba pump is filling the tank fast, but the effort of pushing the water up the extra 15 feet is too much for the outboard.
What happened?
She died.
So where were we?
That was 18 seconds it got halfway there. That's way ahead of 3,000 gallons per minute. Would totally beat 3,000 gallons a minute. Who's gonna do it in like 30 seconds?
That's
All right.
working?
Yeah, oh,
I
yeah.
think that's good. Ooh, God, this is good feeling.
So now we know our pump is as strong as the firefighting Erickson air crane. But can either of them suck a scuba diver out of the water and hold him long enough to get to a forest fire? Let's find out. With the pump at full throttle, Adam pushes Buster toward the intake funnel. But despite the on-point suction specs, there's just not enough pulling power.
I got him right up under that thing, under its full pressure. He, like, lazily delayed a little bit and then sunk right back down. There was just not enough suction to hold him. I mean, his tank was in the way. Everything was in the way.
That was a lot of water coming out the other end, though.
And I have to tell you, if you were a diver and you heard that sound,
You'd go in the other direction.
I
wouldn't you?
think you'd go in the other direction, because I can hear it very clearly under there, and it sounds like a bad thing.
But the MythBusters are determined to see Buster firmly attached to that pump. The funnel and guard are removed from the pipe, and Buster is stripped of his tank.
So we're pulling off the cowling, and we're gonna try him right on the end of the pipe. That's the worst case scenario. They don't run those machines like that, but that's what we're gonna try and see if there's enough suction at all.
It's got him. Buster is held fast. He's up, but not away. As soon as Buster breaks the surface, the pump sucks air and revs dangerously close to burnout.
Was there a failure of the machine?
Negative. I was stopping it from over-revving.
Without the pressure of the water, the pump's motor would over-rev and disintegrate. But an exploding outboard holds no fear for the MythBusters. They want to try again. Adam really gives Buster a shove, The pump sucks, but only till the battered dummy breaks the surface.
That is so busted!
It pulled him up out of the water a little bit.
A little bit short of a forest fire.
Well, that's gotta suck. I have to say the amount of suction under the pool was actually pretty impressive. I'm looking up in the mouth of this just like satanic swirling thing of death, and I just kind of got him near it, and he went like this. I mean, it was just like a, magnet. It was incredible. There's no way that suction's gonna carry him above the water. It's gonna suck onto him under the water, but once it leaves, that pump needs to be primed the whole time with water, and he'll cavitate it, and he'll just drop off.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think this ends the debate once and for all. This one's busted.
Okay.
Next, can a regular postage stamp send a helicopter into a serious spin? This one's going to call for a whole team of experts and the supervision of the Oakland Police Department.
So, Rick, have you ever heard the myth that a postage stamp is enough to unbalance a helicopter, potentially crash it?
I have not heard that myth. I do know that the blade system is very sensitive to items on the rotors, which can include balloons, dust, paint. So it can affect the flight characteristics of the aircraft.
If mere dust can unbalance this chopper, then a postage stamp might have an effect after all. To put this to the test, flight engineer Chad has rigged a series of sensors that can detect the tiniest changes in the balance of the blades.
And what are the sensors telling you?
Okay, well, this up here is called a velocimeter.
Uh-huh.
It's in a lateral position, so it's going to measure vibrations laterally. If the main rotor mass is doing this, it's going to feel this lateral vibration.
And that's because of some imbalance in the blades.
Correct.
To start, the team needs to get a stamp-free baseline. Pilot Rick lifts the chopper into a hover, then spins her around. All the while, flight engineer Chad's computer is analyzing exactly how balanced the blades are without the stamp. So with the chopper calibrated, let's send for the stamp.
What we're gonna do is take a postage stamp and put it on the rotor blade and see if that is enough to send it out of balance and possibly cause a catastrophic crash.
If Pilot Rick or the velocimeter picks up too much balance differentiation, for safety reasons, they'll abort the test immediately. Carrie measures out the postage stamp.
Yeah, this is the 45-cent stamp.
We've got 0.15 grams.
And now the tiny weight of a single postage stamp is stuck onto the precisely balanced rotor blade. But is it enough to render them unstable?
I mean, if you think about it, this helicopter costs $1.3 million, and they're willing for us to go mess around with it. If they're not worried about it, I don't think anything's gonna go wrong.
You know, the game's not over. They're not up in the air yet.
True.
The pressure's on Pilot Rick. With $1 million chopper in his hands, one false move could break the MythBusters budget. But with the heli hovering happily, this myth is sinking fast.
I think we might be busted here.
So, did the stamp make any difference at all?
So, Chad, what did the computer come up with?
Well, with our first flight, without the postage stamp applied,
yeah,
with my measurements, our hover lateral, which is the side-to-side motion, measured a 0.173 inches per second, or IPS.
So that's no stamp.
That is no stamp.
Okay.
Okay? With the application of the stamp, hover lateral was a 0.174. So it only changed 1/1000th of an IPS, which is actually minuscule. Because right now, I would let this helicopter go with no problem at 0.174.
All right, thanks.
The stamp did next to nothing. It's looking like this myth should be returned to sender. But the team does want to try one last thing.
Now, for those of you out there who are helicopter enthusiasts, I know you've been thinking all through the show, they're only concentrating on the main rotor. What about the tail boom? Well, today, we're gonna try the tail boom too.
It's the twist in the tail. One stamp on the main rotor, and now one on the back one too. And there's no hover test for this one. Instead, the team is going for broke.
Are we nuts? We got stamps on the top rotor and the tail rotor.
Well, here's the thing. If we're wrong about this, we're gonna have a really bad day.
But with the first stab having such an unimpressionable result on the blade, the team has been cleared for takeoff with a second stab.
Argus 1, roger, clear for takeoff, on the go.
They're up and away, and it's so far so good. Even with stamps on the main rotor and the tail boom, the chopper's flying straight as an arrow.
This is so cool. Gee, it feels like those postage stamps are really helping the flight.
Carrie stays nervous, but this bird ain't gonna fall out of the sky.
Wait, are we going back? Yeah. Open tower. I'm not ready to go back.
Oh, he's gonna go for the slide right in. That is how you park it.
Touchdown, and time for the team to stamp their authority on this myth.
Okay, Rick, well, we've been out in your helicopter today. We've run a bunch of tests. Postage stamp on a helicopter blade. What do you think?
It had no effect. I felt no appreciable difference.
Definitely busted.
Definitely busted.
Now, from a sophisticated flying system to the simplest of all. Strap in for 3 myths about gliding, including using plywood and a helium raft. First, can you conquer the skies with this heavyweight flyer?
Concrete glider.
The classic engineering school challenge. You cannot make a glider out of concrete.
That's it. Somehow we've got to build a glider out of concrete.
Gliding flight, that effortless sail through the sky, allows objects heavier than air to fly without the use of thrust from an engine. But how are the boys going to achieve this with concrete?
The single biggest problem with the concrete glider is the concrete. But you can make a thin sheet of it, push it through with your finger, and it'll crack. So we're going to need to look at ways to strengthen the concrete.
Jamie starts his build by using a toy model glider kit as a mold for creating his airplane. Normally, concrete is mixed with a heavy aggregate of sand and gravel. But Jamie's lightened the load by carefully mixing cement, sand, and fiberglass into paper-thin wing sections, along with cable reinforcement for that all-important additional strength. Meanwhile, Adam's design is also taking flight.
Well, now I got to draw out the pattern on this foam, and then I got to start like sanding and sculpting it.
With the foam mold ready to go, Adam lays out carbon fiber mesh for his glider's structure and stability. And then he casts his lightweight concrete mix onto the foam mold. With Jamie's paper-thin concrete wings now dry,
That's got to be about the thinnest piece of concrete you ever saw.
he carefully adds a curve to his wing to achieve greater lift. And then uses his ultra-light fishing line to add some tension to his ultra-fragile glider. Adam's glider is anything but lightweight.
This thing weighs a ton.
In order for a glider to fly, it must generate enough lift to oppose its weight. Adam's design offers stability, but will it generate enough lift to overcome its substantial weight? And for Jamie, a super lightweight was the key to his design. But will it hold together in flight?
In this corner, weighing in at...
On the scales, Jamie's featherweight design comes in at just over 600 grams.
This is basically concrete with a few pieces of string, and I think it's a fantastic attempt at foiling the myth that you can't make a glider out of concrete.
Adam is next, and with over 2 kilos of concrete glider, he's definitely in the heavyweight division. To measure their glider's lift-to-weight ratio, they set up a wind tunnel to weigh the glider in front of the fan. Any lift their glider achieves will result in a weight reduction.
Yeah, I'm seeing, on average, probably about, just about a max of 200 grams of lift there.
By my best guess, my glider was receiving about 38% of its total weight in lift.
38% is impressive. With a decent launch speed, that will increase, and it may just be enough. Next up is Adam's concrete glider.
Well, it's nice that I can feel some lift, but this thing is heavy.
His lift-to-weight ratio is well down on Jamie's. It's only generating half as much lift.
Yeah, it spikes up to 350.
My glider did not seem to perform as well as Jamie's. Actually, about half as well.
So now there's just a few pre-flight tweaks and trims before we see if these concrete creations can fly.
It turns out that it's not just about reducing all the weight possible from this, because if it's super light but balanced incorrectly, it's still just a stone.
To get the balance right, Adam adds a gondola. The weight beneath the wing can be adjusted to move the center of gravity. Plus, it should stabilize the glider in flight. Jamie has also been busy shifting his glider's center of gravity further forward.
It looks stupid, but we don't care about that right now. It's a concrete airplane. What are you going to do?
To generate the velocity needed for flight, Adam is rigging up his own aero tow in the form of a zip line, tow line, and quick release.
That mark is where the pin gets pulled out and my glider starts flying on its own.
Adam then optimistically marks out a target distance of 50 feet.
That's how far I want to travel.
A glider's performance is measured by its glide ratio, how much horizontal distance it can travel compared to its altitude drop.
Oh, buddy.
Okay.
And whoever achieves the longest relative flight will be crowned winner.
3, 2, 1, go.
Well, the launch was successful, and Adam's concrete glider has survived relatively intact. But how far did it glide?
My glider released from its catch off of its guideline at about 9 feet off the ground. It then flew close to 34 feet before hitting the ground. Now, 4 times 9 is 36, so 34 feet means I came devilishly close to a 4-to-1 glide ratio. I could not be more pleased with these results. It flew very stably. That is really clear. I only had one chance to trim this thing so that it would fly straight, and it did. I feel really, really good.
With a spring in his step, Adam measures out the target Jamie needs to exceed to succeed.
We know that Jamie's 28 feet off the ground, so if he wants to hit a 4-to-1 glide ratio, he's got to get his plane to hit the ground at 112 feet.
Jamie opts for a manual launch from the stairwell.
Okay. In 3, 2, 1. Well, there you go.
Jamie's wilting bird took flight and then took a nosedive. Yep, his concrete glider was all concrete and no glide.
Congratulations, you won.
Jamie's 1-to-1 glide ratio was not even close to matching Adam's soaring achievement of 4-to-1. But what about the myth? Did the guys prove anything about the concept of a concrete glider?
We did prove that it can be done.
I'd call it plausible, but not recommended.
Yeah, you know, the big thing for me is that you only got one shot at it. You know, it's brittle. If you crash with the things, it's over. So we're plausible.
Plausible.
But not recommended.
Exactly.
Next, can plywood glide you to safety?
Plywood builder. Walk me through this one.
Apparently, a construction worker up on the top of a building was holding on to a 4x8 sheet of plywood on a windy day, and the wind picks him up off the top of the building over the edge. Not only does he manage to hold on to the plywood, but he controls it well enough to be able to land several floors below in the building unharmed.
Cool flying myth.
According to the myth, the builder was holding a sheet of 5-ply when he took his unscheduled flight. That's made up of 5 thin sheets of timber compressed together. As well as testing the regular sheet, Adam and Jamie will use the 5 individual sheets to design their own flying rigs from plywood. For his plywood glider, Adam is going for a pentagonal design with a scoop, similar to a parachute. He calculates the angles, measures up the sheets, and then lays them out for a little glue and a little jig to press them together. It's no surprise that Jamie has gone for a simpler wing design to maximize his surface area, while not compromising strength. He's placing the 5 sheets for his wing on a cradle made from 2x4s. Narrow strips of ply are used as strengtheners.
Yeah, charm.
Okay, now we go out and bring the pipe in.
And to achieve a curve in his wing, weights are gently placed in the center of the plywood sheets.
There we go.
Cool.
We're gonna put a diagonal on this that'll torque this thing a little bit and create a propeller shape, which gives us the spin, and the spin gives us the lift, which slows us down.
And once the glue is dry...
Jamie, this looks great, man. It looks like it held its curve quite nicely. It was pretty darn rigid.
Yeah, it actually is holding its shape quite nicely.
It racks like a monster.
Which is what we want.
Twisting the plywood wing will turn it into a spinning propeller. This will further slow its descent, in theory.
Okay, now let it go. That's more like it.
Yeah, that looks a lot better.
Adam's plywood sheets are dry and ready to be pulled together to form the parachute shape.
Hey, Jamie. I'm gonna need some help with this.
You know, be careful. In a blink, you're gonna end up with a split right along that line.
While using the 5 single sheets of ply should get the most air resistance for their rigs, this larger surface area isn't quite as efficient for portability.
This side.
Wait, you're caught. You snap.
Okay.
I want one of these for myself.
With a lot more room to move, the old control tower will be the ideal place to launch Buster, with nothing but a sheet of ply to see if he can glide safely to the ground, just like the mythical builder. The tests will take place in front of a scale ruler. A computer attached to the high-speed camera will then determine the exact drop rates. And our fall guy here has a few modifications.
He's a very relaxed dude.
He doesn't know what's about to happen to him.
Human transport.
They've put a sensor in his head that'll show them whether the fall is survivable.
Okay, be careful with this guy now. He has a brain.
Buster will be raised 60 feet up on the crane and then dropped on cue via a cable quick release.
Once you get up in position, push the blue button and pull out the safety pin.
Okay.
Oh man, Buster is toast.
So they can work out if the plywood rigs do slow him down, Buster's first control drop will be totally unassisted and very painful.
3, 2, 1, go.
I was laying on the ground when he hit, and I felt the ground move a little bit.
I never get tired of doing that.
The high-speed camera reveals Buster is traveling between 34 and 35 miles an hour when he hits the ground.
What's the verdict, Christine?
I think he's dead.
That's a shocker.
Sorry, Buster, in goes another sensor, and here comes another drop.
Are you ready for a piece of plywood? Oh, I can tell you're feeling it. Oh, he's ready.
To play our flying builder, Buster's hands have been replaced with clamps for a good grip on his ply.
He's gonna die. No, but it's gonna look great.
We're locked and loaded, over.
Remember, in the myth, the falling builder is able to glide gracefully back inside the building, totally unharmed.
Go. Buster was such a good dummy.
Rather than slowing him down, the plywood increases Buster's velocity to over 36 miles per hour. And his body snaps the 5-ply sheet in half. Which means one thing.
This one's busted.
Yeah, I'm afraid so. He went straight down. There was no deflection off to the side or anything, and he's done for.
Let's go get our solutions. Let's go try my wooden parachute.
Okay.
Will the additional surface area from the 5 component layers make Busters glide to the ground any safer?
Well, fat lot of good that did.
And that's why they don't make parachutes out of wood.
Oh, well, the best laid plans. It was a nice idea.
Nice try.
Jamie is quietly confident his rig will do the job.
4, 3, 2, 1, go!
Woo! Do you feel better now?
I do. I feel a lot better.
So, Adam, what do you think? Did he go slower at all? At least he didn't flip over again until the right at the last minute.
It didn't spin at all, and then he went totally sideways and landed on its edge, and he just collapsed with it. It was a horror show. And unfortunately, he was off-center, and the high-speed camera caught none of it.
Bummer.
Poor guy.
In all 3 drops, the plywood did nothing to slow Buster's descent. But now, Adam's body is going on the line. The boys rig up a zip line to see if they can get any control out of the ply while in flight.
It is always a strange thing to throw yourself out over the edge of a 60-foot drop. Your body resists it.
Sorry, Adam. Flying with a piece of ply is the only way to find out if you can steer ply in flight, like the myth suggests.
We have liftoff.
I fart on you! Forget about controlling this thing. There's no control. I mean, I tried pushing my head up against it. At the peak, I could not get it. It's just like all over the place.
Well, that's the most interesting thing about this whole thing so far. I mean, we've tested everything we could.
What was our actual data?
What really surprised me was that the plywood was no use at all. In fact, it broke over Buster's back upon impact. And our rigs didn't do anything at all. It didn't help either.
From a controllability standpoint and from a velocity hitting the ground standpoint, this is one of those myths that's just unequivocally busted.
Yeah, absolutely. Myth busted.
Okay, how about something a little lighter? Can you take flight on a helium-filled raft?
Adam, what myth do we have this time?
Well, this one is pretty darn simple. It comes right off the MythBuster fan site. And it is simply that if you fill a raft with helium, that you could actually fly on that raft.
Well, on the face of it, I'm not so sure about this one, but there's only one way to find out.
Let's start with a look at helium. It weighs just 0.17 grams per liter. By contrast, nitrogen, which makes up about 80% of the air we breathe, is 10 times heavier. The more helium you have, the more air it displaces, and the greater the lift. But just how much helium do you need to get your average MythBuster airborne?
Okay, so I've run the math on the lifting power of helium. It takes almost 16 cubic feet of helium just to lift 1 pound. That means for you or me, 200 pounds plus a raft, let's say it weighs 100 pounds, that's 300 pounds of lift, we need just under 5,000 cubic feet of helium to do that.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Sure is. Made from polytubing, the plan for this double-decker raft will be to roll out a bottom deck of 25 pontoons. Then, the top layer is rolled out crosswise. Lines of packing tape at 10-foot intervals will stitch the pontoons together. Each tube will then be filled with helium and sealed with an airtight valve.
Remember, take it easy, no mistakes.
But with only inflatable tubes to offer structural support, can these PVC pipes really become a giant life raft of plastic fantastic? To find out, they've relocated to a hangar to put their helium-filled flying machine together.
So those rolls of plastic that you saw, there's 60 of them. And they're 60 feet long and 3 feet wide. We're gonna lay them out here on a 60 by 75 foot square. And as we roll them out, we're gonna stitch them together into a raft.
With tape.
with packaging tape.
It sounds as far-fetched as a concrete glider. But hey, who are we to be skeptical of a raft filled with helium and held together with packing tape?
So it begins.
Precision is going to be the key to this test. If there's any tube that's not correctly aligned or any tie left undone, the whole raft could be ruined, and the myth will be punctured.
This is nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
I'm not sure the term painstaking is really adequate. Several hours and 6 sore knees later, the layout is finally complete.
And this is the highest potential for total failure I think that we've ever achieved on the show.
Highest?
Yeah, without a doubt.
This net is the last thing that we've got to do. If we can achieve a little tension on it, it's going to really hold all these things together, and we might get a chance to fly.
36 cylinders of helium are pumped into the plastic tubing.
I'm not seeing or hearing any leaks.
And as those massive pontoons fill, each one generates 5 pounds of lift.
Good.
Before long, the raft is starting to rise.
This thing is effectively neutrally buoyant right now, and we have plenty to lift me.
The MythBusters can boast a whole raft of achievements, and successfully gliding on a helium-filled raft might soon make the list.
The fact that we've got it up and it's buoyant, very exciting. I really just want to get on there now and be able to relax on my flying raft. Good, good. Okay, lower.
With Adam in position on the mattress, Carrie starts dumping the ballast. But straight away, there's a problem.
You better cut the other side a little bit.
Without the ballast, one side of the raft suddenly takes to the skies, and Adam begins to slip off his mattress.
Okay, stop. Don't cut anymore.
Okay. Whoa! Whoa!
The team stops cutting the ballast, but the damage is done, as Adam has more slide than glide.
Wait a second.
Without any support structure, the flimsy pontoons can't cope. On a build this big, there was always the chance that something would slip through the cracks. Never thought it would be Adam, though.
Hey, Adam?
Yeah.
This isn't working.
No, it seems to have failed utterly.
You've, like, slipped right through to the bottom side.
Yeah, I feel like something that got cut out of the Matrix here.
Are you all right?
I'm fine. I'm upside down, and I'm in a net, and I'm below the biggest thing ever built out of helium and balloons, but I'm fine.
With the raft coming apart at the seams, there's just no way the team can reset to try again.
That's good. Stop.
All that work.
Look at this. It's a cathedral of failure.
Not really, Adam. We've learned that any raft able to fly will be unfeasibly large and far too flimsy to take passengers.
Oh my God, we might need to open a door.
But I'm calling this one busted. I know we're not supposed to bust them on site. We're supposed to wait for the blueprint table, but I don't want to go back there. I just want to take the sweatsuit off and call it done and busted.
Yeah.
Busted.
Yeah.
Busted.
Busted.
Busted. Busted. Thank you. I was waiting for you to say it.
Okay.
Let's clean it up.